Welcome and thank you for standing by. Currently, all participants are in a listen-only mode. Today's webinar is being recorded, and the recording will be posted publicly. If you have any objections, you may disconnect at this time. Now I'd like to turn the call over to one of your presenters for today, Vicki Mack. Vicki, you may begin.
All right. Thank you, Lisa. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining our session on using American Community Survey data for grant writing. My name is Vicki Mack, and I work in the American Community Survey Office at the U.S. Census Bureau. I'm here with my coworker, Tyson Weister, who works in the Center for Enterprise Dissemination. I'd like to remind you that today's webinar is being recorded. If you would like to follow along with our webinar today, we have posted the slides at the link you see here. The link to the slides will be or may already be posted in the chat. A recording and transcript will be posted on our website within the next few weeks at the same link. If you have any questions during the webinar, please post them in the Q&A section, and one of our team members will try their best to respond to you as quickly as possible. Now let's go over today's agenda. For the first part of today's webinar, I will go over the basics of the American Community Survey, or ACS for short, including the topics that the data are available for, geographies covered, and the data release schedules. Then I'll discuss a few ACS data products that can help you easily find the ACS data you may need for grant proposals and how to access them. They include narrative profiles, data profiles, and these provide the most requested data, and the comparison profiles, which show comparisons of ACS data across time periods and whether the differences are statistically significant. Then I'll hand the webinar over to Tyson, who will demonstrate accessing the data from data.census.gov, the Census Bureau's main platform for accessing ACS data. And finally, I'll cover some resources available on our website for learning more or getting additional help with ACS data. Before we talk about the ACS, let's start with a quick overview of the U.S. Census Bureau as a whole. The U.S. Census Bureau is the largest of 13 primary federal government statistical agencies. Our mission is to serve as the nation's leading provider of quality data about its people and economy. We strive to provide the most up-to-date, useful, quality data and products. While most people are familiar with the decennial census, which we conduct every 10 years, every decade, we also conduct more than 130 censuses and surveys of households and businesses across the nation each year. This includes the ACS and more than 30 other household surveys. The Census Bureau also conducts the economic census to measure American businesses, and the census of governments, which collects data on our nation's public sector. Today, again, I'll provide a brief overview of the ACS. However, if you are new to the ACS and want more in-depth information on ACS resources, we have an introductory webinar on the ACS with slides and a recording available. An updated intro webinar will be held next month on August 20th. We also have 6 modules posted in a course titled Discovering the American Community Survey. The comprehensive course is designed for all kinds of data users and those who need to understand the fundamentals of the ACS and how to access the data. Now, the ACS is the premier source of detailed information about the nation's people and housing. The survey samples about 3.5 million housing unit addresses each year. These data are collected continuously throughout the year to produce annual social, economic, housing, and demographic estimates for communities throughout the United States and Puerto Rico. The estimates cover more than 40 topics. The ACS collects this detailed information each year that was previously collected by the decennial census each decade. ACS data are timely because they are released the following year in which they are collected. The ACS creates period estimates, which means they represent characteristics of the population in housing over a specific data collection period. The ACS releases estimates for 1 year and 5 year periods. The ACS was fully implemented in 2005 after years of extensive testing. The first ACS 1 year estimates were collected in 2005 and released in 2006. The first 5 year ACS estimates were collected between 2005 and 2009 and released in 2010. And by the way, this is the 20th year of the ACS. Now, the ACS collects data across 4 key categories: social, economic, demographic, and housing. Data from these categories can help grant writers build stronger data-informed proposals. These data can support the need statements, justify target populations, and demonstrate local context of an issue. Social characteristics include topics such as education or educational attainment, language spoken at home, and veteran status. Economic characteristics include such topics as commuting to work, employment status, and income. The ACS also collects basic demographic characteristics such as sex, age, race, and Hispanic origin. Housing characteristics include topics such as computer and internet use, housing costs, and new topics added in 2025: electric vehicles, solar panels, and public sewer connectivity. Data for these new topics are planned to be released in 2026. These topics are used to produce more than 1,000 tables for local communities each year. Now, along with numerous topics covered, the ACS also provides data for more geographies on an annual basis than any other household survey. The image on the screen shows some of the geographies for which ACS data are produced and the relationship between them. Lower geographic areas fit neatly within the larger areas directly connected with lines. For example, school, congressional, and state legislative districts fit neatly within states and do not cross state boundaries. However, they may cross boundaries of counties or metropolitan areas. In this visualization, you can also see the smallest geographic building block is the block group. Block groups are a group of blocks within a census tract with 600 to 3,000 people. Right above block groups are census tracts. Census tracts are small statistical subdivisions within a county with populations of 1,200 to 8,000 people. Census tracts are sometimes used to approximate neighborhoods. The appeal of the ACS to grant writers is that it provides data at small geographic levels, such as block groups or census tracts. ACS data products are released about 1 year after the data are collected. The data are typically released in September, the calendar year after collection, as 1 year estimates. In October, the calendar year after collection, as 1 year supplemental estimates. And 5 year estimates are generally released in December, the calendar year after collection. For example, the 1 year ACS data collected from January 1st through December 31st of 2023 were released in September of 2024. ACS 1 year estimates, which combine data collected over 12 months, are available for geographic areas with populations of 65,000 or more. 1 year supplemental estimates are available for geographic areas with populations of 20,000 or more. And then the 5 year estimates combine data collected over 60 months and are available for geographic areas of all sizes down to those granular census tract and block group levels. The planned data release schedule for the 2024 ACS data is shown here on the last row, and the full detailed data release schedule for each year is available on the data releases page. Now let's talk about how ACS can help grant writers. Successful grant proposals often begin with a strong needs statement. It's a section that clearly defines a problem or challenge in a community and makes the case for why funding is needed. This is where census and ACS data can be incredibly valuable. A well-written needs statement should describe the target population or community, define the specific problem the project will address, use both quantitative and qualitative data, that's like narrative or lived experiences type data, to support the case, and tell a compelling evidence-based story. ACS data shines in this section because it describes who lives in the community. It is timely and regularly updated. It's a trusted and authoritative source. It's recognized by private foundations and government agencies alike. And it supports comparisons across time, between communities, or against broader benchmarks like county versus state versus national averages. ACS data can help grant writers build a data library. That is, create a collection of key local statistics that reflect the challenges in your community, such as rising housing costs and commuting issues. It can help them define their service area because ACS data allows you to clearly identify the geographic area your project will serve. ACS can help grant writers pinpoint the target group by using ACS variables like age, language spoken at home, or disability status to zoom in on the specific population your proposal aims to impact. Grant writers can then combine these statistics with stories or quotes to craft a compelling narrative that resonates with funders and illustrates real need. Because ACS data is timely and updated, grant writers can do things like show disparities like income inequality, limited access to broadband, and educational attainment gaps. You can also show trends like housing cost increases or decreases over time. Taking advantage of these benefits can make your story more data informed with a data source that funders trust. Curious about how ACS data makes a real impact? Check out our ACS Data Stories page and see how organizations across the country are using data to drive change in their communities. One powerful example comes from the West Cook YMCA in Oak Park, Illinois. In April 2023, they used ACS data to support a successful proposal for a $1.27 million grant from the village of Oak Park. The funding is helping them combat chronic illnesses and improve health outcomes for local residents. You want to learn more? Visit the link on the screen to explore this and other inspiring stories of how ACS data are being used to make a difference. Now, when preparing a grant proposal, our narrative profiles are an excellent starting point for community data. The narrative profiles present ACS data in a user-friendly format, including visuals and summaries across 18 topics covering social, economic, housing, and demographic estimates. The narrative profiles are available for a variety of geographic areas from the nation and states down to the census tracts. Narrative profiles are used by many grant writers to strengthen their grant applications with reliable community data. You can only access them from their homepage on the ACS website, as they are not available from data.census.gov. The example on the screen is for Hinesville, Georgia. So let me show you how easy it is to access this narrative profile. So go to the link. So when you go to the link to the narrative profiles page, all you have to do is select your address. And in this case, I'm going to select the address. I'm going to select the address. I'm going to select the geography. And in this case, it's a place. For the census, the place represents city. So I'm looking for Hinesville. So I'm going to select place. And Hinesville, Georgia. Oh, Hinesville is in Georgia. I'm going to scroll down to the state selector and select Georgia. And then I'm going to scroll down and choose a place. Again, I'm looking for Hinesville. So you can scroll down to select the city of Hinesville. And then you just click on Get Narrative Profile. And it's just that easy. And here is the narrative profile for Hinesville, Georgia. Another great starting place for grant writers are the data profiles. The data profiles are DP02, DP03, DP04, or DP05. Those are the titles. According to, they contain the most frequently or commonly requested social, economic, housing, and demographic data. Data profiles summarize data for a single geographic area, including both numbers and percents. They provide data for several geographic areas from the nation down to the census tract level, similarly to the narrative profiles. So you can access the data profiles from the ACS website or by going directly to the data.census.gov platform. I'll show you how from the ACS website, but later Tyson will show you how to access data tables directly from data.census.gov. So the first thing I want to do is go to our data profiles page. But before I do that, I want to show you that we have two options. You can use an address lookup feature, or you can use a geography selector. And I have the address lookup feature circled here, or with the red rectangle here on the screen. So let's go there right now. Let's do a demo. Okay, I'm going to use an address for the Marriott Hotel in Atlanta to do a demo, to access the data profile. So the first thing you do is click on the address lookup link here and type the address in one line. And that's 265 Peachtree Center Avenue, Northeast Atlanta, Georgia, 30303. It'll still look it up. And it found it. So it found the match, 265 Peachtree Center Avenue, Northeast Atlanta, 30303. The first geography is census tract. It's census tract 1902. And it provides the links to the 4 data profiles, which are DP02, the social characteristics, the economic characteristics, housing characteristics, and demographic characteristics table. And you just select the link, click on the link for any one of those tables. And another set of tables for grant writers and data users are the comparison profiles. These 4 tables are labeled with the CP instead of the DP. And they show estimates side by side for different time periods and highlight statistically significant differences. The one-year comparison profiles show 5 years of data side by side for areas with populations of 65,000 or more, highlighting the differences between the most recent year and the 4 previous years. The 5-year comparison profiles compare data from 2 non-overlapping 5-year periods for areas with populations of 5,000 or more. It's important to remember that ACS data are based on a sample of the population and not the full population. So you must assume that estimates, you can assume that estimates are different just because they look different, just because one is higher or lower than the other. You must consider the margins of error and test for significant differences. Comparison profiles take care of this by using a built-in statistical testing tool. So you can quickly see where real differences exist. These tables are available through data.census.gov. The example on the screen shows the 2023 CP02 table for New Orleans. The asterisks next to the estimates indicate statistically significant changes. I bet you can't say that 3 times. Now, the Census Bureau provides a variety of data tools for accessing ACS data. Here is a list of just 4 of those tools. You can learn more about these tools and determine which one fits your needs best by going to the link provided on the screen. Again, the main data dissemination tool for ACS data is data.census.gov, which Tyson will demo in a few minutes. Quick Facts is a quick, easy way to access facts about people, business, and geography. My Tribal Area is a tool that allows you to access statistics representing the entire population that lives on American Indian and Alaska Native areas. And My Congressional District gives you quick and easy access to selected statistics from the ACS and county business patterns. There are recorded webinars on how to use many of the tools on the Census Academy page. Now I will hand this webinar over to Tyson.
Great, thank you, Vicki. All right, so my name is Tyson Weister. Thank you all so much for spending the afternoon with us. I work on the communications team for data.census.gov and am excited to give a live demonstration on how to access all of the wonderful data that Vicki went into detail. So before I get there, I just wanted to paint a picture as to what is available in data.census.gov and why you would use it. So we are the primary platform to access data from the US Census Bureau. It means that we have data from the Census Bureau's most popular surveys and programs, including, of course, the American Community Survey. So in the context of the ACS, we have data back to 2010 available on our site, and it includes the full set of ACS detailed tables, data profiles, comparison profiles, and subject tables. So when you want to access that full set of information, that would be a good reason to get it from data.census.gov instead of some of the other easier to use tools that were shown elsewhere in this presentation. With that, I'm going to dive into a demonstration here. But for context, as we're discussing today different search strategies, there are 2 primary ways to go about searching on our site. One is the single search bar where you would use it very similar to Google, type in keywords in order to get to the data you're looking for. For the purpose of today's demonstration, I'm going to show more advanced methods to go about searching. So we're going to focus on the address search functionality, and then I'm going to use advanced search filters. So throughout this demonstration, we're going to start very basic and build on that to show you additional search strategies and ways of consuming data, both through table format and visual formats as well. So to get started, we're going to show an example finding data for the census tract that an address falls within. And for this example, I'm going to pull up % disability for the census tract that includes this address, which corresponds to the Census Bureau's regional office in Los Angeles. So what you'll want to do is go to data.census.gov. And the trickiest part of using the address search on our site is knowing to click the geography pin icon. So once you click that geography pin, you'll notice the pop-up window opens up and you'll be able to type in the address. So 2300 West Empire Avenue in Burbank, California, and recommend putting in the zip code as well. And once you're ready to run that, you'll click the search button. And if it ran successfully and found a matching address, you would see the address card here. So this is showcasing at the top that yes, we do have a matching address for this particular search. And then it gives you a list of all of these different Census Bureau geographies that this address is part of. So what's really helpful is not only are those listed out for you, you can click an individual address or a geography, such as the one for Census Tract 3105.01, and it will add it to your filter. So it just provides a streamlined way for you to find data associated with an address that you may be interested in for your grant application. When you do that, notice in the upper left, we see that filter has been successfully added. So this is the equivalent as if we had selected this particular census tract through the filter panel, but the only piece of information that I needed to know was the address in order to get here. And then from here, you would go about consuming the data from our site. One of the options is to click tables at the top, and you'll see that in total, there's over 1,500 data tables on our site that cover this census tract. So you would likely want to narrow this search down a bit. On the left-hand side, you'll see different filters that enable you to do that, including topic filters. So this is where we can drill down and select disability. Notice under the topics heading on the left-hand side, you'll see health. And then we see a checkbox for disability. So as soon as I mark this checkbox, it will add that filter in the upper left. And then rather than showing us all of the tables for this census tract, it will update to show all of the disability tables for this particular tract. There's 38 of them, and you can see the data come from the American Community Survey. I'm going to be throughout this demonstration, expanding and collapsing the filter and results panels. So just know that that is available to you if you'd like to devote more space on your screen to the table display. You can collapse that. But for this table S1810, disability characteristics, it shows it comes from the American Community Survey. And I recommend looking at the top as well to verify all of the source information. So in this case, it's specifying that the data are specifically from the 2023 American Community Survey 5-year estimates subject tables. And then you'll always want to, no matter what table you're clicked into, take a moment to browse the columns and rows of the table. So here we see our census tract in the column. And this particular table provides a column for the total population, a column for the population with a disability. So we're seeing here 553 people live in this census tract that have a disability, and that is 14.9% of the population. So do keep in mind that this is all based on survey data, and even the largest household-based survey in the nation has error associated with the fact that the data are conducted through a survey and sample methods. With that, what you'll see on data.census.gov is the margin of error is reported for you. So we recommend that users reference margins of error when interpreting the data, and specifically for the American Community Survey, it's reported out at the 90% confidence level. So this means if you add and subtract the margin of error from the estimate, we are 90% sure that the true number or the true percent of people with a disability would fall somewhere in that range. So this example, when I did the calculation, I got a range of 10.5% through 19.3%, and that we would expect with 90% certainty the actual percent disability would fall in that range if we got to do 100% population count instead of a survey method. And then the last thing I wanted to show really briefly is how you can explore visually the geography you selected. If you notice at the top, there is a Maps tab. And when you click Maps, anytime you've selected just one geography, the system's going to be really great about automatically knowing which geography you selected and zooming you there on your map. So this is where you could get a sense to what the area represents that we were looking at data for. Remember, we started with an address, we selected a census tract. The map feature allows you to zoom in, and you'll notice street lines and street labels populate so you can make sense of what this area represents. All right, moving on to our next example. I know that there were questions in the chat about accessing data for multiple geographies. I'm going to show that in this example, how to access data for more than one geography in the same table view. For this example, we're going to pull up percent poverty, and I'm going to show that at the state, county, and zip code area levels. So back on the live site, anytime you'd like to start fresh from the landing page, click the Census Bureau logo in the upper left. And for the rest of our demonstration today, I'm going to be using exclusively the advanced search. You'll notice directly under the single search bar, the phrase advanced search. We refer to that interchangeably with the word filters. So we've actually already used this when we selected the disability filter. The advanced search, as you can see on the left, allows you to select geographies, topics, surveys, years, and codes. So for my example, I'm going to select those three geographies first, the state, county, and the zip code area. We provide the most commonly used levels of geography here first. And if you really want to take a deep dive, there's over 200 possible levels to choose from in general at the Census Bureau. So on the left-hand side, first I'm going to choose state and mark the checkbox for Indiana. Once I mark that selection, you'll notice in the upper left that it's adding it as a filter. And this is where you can continuously repeat this process if you wanted to select additional states. For my purpose, I wanted to drill into the county level. So I choose on the left, county, Indiana, in Marion County. And this is a list that you can scroll through. There's also a search bar at the top of these panels. We're going to use that in our next example to show you how you can get directly to a selection without scrolling. So for that last example on the left, we're going to click zip code tabulation area. You want to use zip code tabulation area, or also it's referred to as ZICTA, anytime you want data from the American Community Survey or Decennial Census. These are general representations of zip codes. So after we make that selection, again, follow the prompts. And the one that we're going to look at in this example is zip code area 46218. So rather than scrolling, I'm going to click into that search bar at the top of this panel and start typing in some text. Notice that you'll want to make sure to type in the text, but also mark the checkbox in order to make a final search selection. So that's the trickiest part, is just remembering you do need to check the box after you've found the filter of interest. And anything that you type in this search bar is looking for text that matches exactly something that's in this panel. So be very careful of spelling. All right, so we have three geographies: Indiana, Marion County, and the zip code area. On the left, the next thing I'm going to do is specify that I want data for poverty. So where it says income and poverty, I'll click that. Then I'll choose poverty and then mark poverty as a final selection. You'll always want to make sure in the upper left that it adds it as a selected filter. Here we have 3 geographies, 1 topic. When you're ready to view the data, go ahead and click Search in the lower right, then click Tables at the top. So there's 242 poverty tables that provide data for at least one of these geographies. I'm going to take a look at the first table, S1701, poverty status in the past 12 months from the American Community Survey. Notice there is a column for Indiana. And as I scroll to the right, there's a second column for Marion County. And then I get to the end of the table. So you may be wondering where the data for the zip code is. Remember that Vicki had mentioned ACS one-year estimates are available for geographies with 65,000 people or more. The 5-year estimates provide data for all geographic areas down to the census tract and block group level, regardless of population size. So you need to be mindful of what product you're clicked into data.census.gov. Notice at the top, we are viewing the 1-year version of this table. And there's also a little note here to help you remember to switch to 5-year if you're not seeing data for all of your geographies. So just click the product drop-down menu at the top of the table. It will allow you to switch between 1 and 5-year and also access historical data from the ACS. So here I'm going to use the 2023 ACS 5-year estimate subject tables. And then in the interest of time, I'm just going to clean up the view a little bit to get exactly what we were looking for, which was percent poverty. So I can see here for Indiana, 12.2% of people live below the poverty level. In Marion County, that's 15.1%. And compared to the zip code, we see that it's 31.4%. Now, once you've gone through all the steps to find data that's of interest to you, you're likely going to want to share this information, be able to access it later, download it, etc. I wanted to take a moment here to show you those options. You'll see them at the top in the ribbon. You'll want to click under More Tools. One of the popular formats is to download, and we recently improved the download process to make it more intuitive. So once you click the download button, each of these buttons that you see in the radio options, Excel, CSV, and Zip, were previously their own button at the top of the table. You can choose which one you want to output the data in. And as a user, the biggest thing that I want to share with you all today is if you want the output to look similar to what you saw on screen and be very readable to you, you want most likely the Excel option. You would choose the radio button, go through the prompts. I've already done that. And when you do that, there will be 2 tabs. The first tab will contain source information and notes for the data table for reference purposes. And what you're most likely going to be interested in is the data tab. Notice this looks very similar to what we were viewing on screen. We have the columns with our geographies, and it even captured the customizations we made to the table view prior to making this download. And then on the left-hand side, you have all of your rows that are indented and very easy to read. The other primary option is zip. This file format will include a CSV file that's machine readable and has GeoIDs included. So once you go through the process to download a zip file, you will get something that looks like this. It's again meant if you wanted to maybe sort the data, map it in your own software, or do something more advanced rather than just view it or print it. And notice that the first column here, A, includes the geography IDs. Back on the site, there was another question earlier about citing the data. We've heard from users, including grant writers, that want to be able to cite the information and added a cite button directly to data.census.gov. When you click it, it will give you citations generated in popular formats like MLA, APA, and several others. And then another output option under more tools is to share. This is what's going to give you a link that will take you or someone else back to the same table. It will have the geography selection included, and you can also use these options to share on social media or quickly by email. And I'm not going to wait for it to load in its entirety, but it will have everything included that you had accessed. All right, so we showed how to compare across geographies in a table. Let's now switch gears a little bit and show you how you can visually compare across geographies. In preparation for this last example, I did a little bit of research and pulled up a table. It shows that 11.8% of households in Denver County do not have a vehicle available for the household. But what if I wanted to know, what does this really look like within smaller areas of the county? Well, you can use the mapping functionality on data.census.gov to visualize and see this information very quickly. For this example, I'm going to map out the percent of households with no vehicles available for all census tracts in the county from the ACS 5-year data profiles. So back here on the live site, I'll click the US Census logo to start fresh. And we're going to use the advanced search once again. On the left-hand side, you'll see census tract is one of the options. We'll follow the prompts, choose Colorado, Denver County, and then I'm going to choose all census tracts within Denver County. Now, for our previous examples, we had used topic filters. We also have the option to add survey filters. For the American Community Survey, you'll click ACS on the left. And depending on what you've already selected, you'll see 1 and or 5-year estimates to choose from. Here we selected census tracts, so we only see the 5 years. And then you'll see the different types of tables that Vicki had mentioned. One of our favorites are the data profiles, and that's what I'm going to use for this example. I love to use them for mapping because they have percentages and they include popular information, and there's only 4 of them, so I don't have to sort through long lists. On the upper left, we see the geography and the survey filter. I'm going to click search. And I mentioned we're going to be creating a map. All of the maps and charts on our site are based on underlying tables. So with that, I always recommend going to the table view first and then creating your visualization after you've familiarized yourself with the table. So at the top, I click tables. I want to look at vehicles available. That's something that's reported out at the household level. So where I see the bottom, DP02, selected housing characteristics, I'll click that table. I see at the top, I'm getting data from the 2023 ACS 5-year. I have my census tract. There's a column for the total estimate, and then a column for percentages. And the left-hand side shows different sections of this table in capital letters. When I scroll down, I see a section for vehicles available, and there's a row for no vehicles. So this is telling me that there are estimated 71 households in census tract 1.02 that do not have access to a vehicle, or about 4.3% of all households in that tract. So once I've got here, I'm ready to visualize the data. What you'll do is click Maps at the top. On the left, you'll want to make sure you're still clicked into the table that has the data you want to map out. And then on your map, you'll want to make sure that it has set it to the correct geography. So it's zoomed us in automatically to Denver County. We see that we're looking at small sections of the county, these census tracts, that's indicated in the legend and in the layer. So all we have to do is tell the system out of all of the estimates in that large data table, which one do we want shown on the map? And that's where you can click in the upper left and choose the variable. These are ordered in the same way that they were ordered in the rows of the table. So remember, we scrolled down a bit to get to no vehicles. You'll scroll just as far here. And before I click no vehicles available, I just wanted to point out, if percentages are provided in the underlying data table, we always default to map percentages. But if you, for some reason, wanted to map out the total number of households with no vehicles available, you could switch the units at the bottom. But I'm going to leave it at %. Click no vehicles available, and our map is updated. So this allows us to visually see census tracts in darker shades of blue have higher percentages of households with no access to a vehicle. Again, as you scroll in, you can get a better sense of these areas. You can click an individual tract and see, as an example, in Census Tract 8, 44.5% of households do not have a vehicle available. And this helps you see trends as well. You can see pockets of the city with high concentrations of households with no vehicles available, and areas of the city that do have vehicles available by and large. And while we're talking about visualizing the data, one last thing I wanted to point out, when you click more tools at the top, and you'll see there's a button called chart. So the process to create a chart is almost identical to creating a map, and that means that they're also connected very well. So you can flip back and forth between maps and charts using the button in the ribbon, and the site will remember what you've chosen already and carry that over into another visualization. So we'll give it a moment here to load. And what we should be seeing here is a chart. It's a bar chart, and it will show % with no vehicles available. And so that carried over, we're seeing percentages. And this is also optimized if you wanted to sort the information. You could see the data here in another way. And I just wanted to close with a couple resources before I turn things over to Vicki. We encourage you to submit feedback on how we can make the data easier for you to access. There's a feedback link under the single search bar, and that will allow you to send an email to census.data@census.gov. We continuously improve data.census.gov based on feedback from users. In the past year, some of the major changes include the brand new chart feature, the improvements to the download process that I showed you, the new messaging at the top of the tables for ACS 1 year, and a couple other major items that I didn't get a chance to show today, but you can visit the link at the bottom if you'd like to stay up to date on the details of all of the enhancements we're making. We also, at data.census.gov team, offer workshops. These are hands-on opportunities for you to learn and practice how to use the site. So they're anywhere from 2 to 3 hours in length. They're online, they're free of charge, and you'll be able to view demonstrations. You'll have an exercise and then some time to work on that individually before coming together as a group. There are several data.census.gov ones, including basic advanced mapping, and we also have one specifically on finding American Community Survey data. We do offer these regularly each month, so if the current time slot doesn't meet your availability, please continue to check back, and we hope to see you at one. And then we also have a dedicated resources page for data.census.gov educational materials. You can access using the QR code or by clicking the help button on the landing page of data.census.gov. Thank you for spending some time to learn about the site, and I will turn things back over to Vicki. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Tyson. Before we wrap up today's webinar, we'd like to invite you to stay in touch with us. One way is by telling us how you use data from the ACS. Have you or your organization used the ACS to make an important decision, help your community, or expand your business? If so, please share your story to let us know. Doing so provides further support for the importance of the data we collect here at the Census Bureau and is a great way to further promote our data. Also, consider joining a group we have specifically for users of ACS data, known simply as the ACS Data Users Group. The group includes a website and an online community with over 7,000 members where you can share messages, materials, and announcements related to the survey. Membership is free and open to all interested ACS data users. And finally, you can sign up for and manage email updates from the ACS. Our monthly events and updates email will alert you when new materials are available. And you'll stay updated on our data releases. In closing, I encourage you to connect with us directly. If you have ACS or data.census.gov questions, you can reach us at the email addresses or at the phone number shown here. I've also provided the link to sign up for and manage alerts, again, about the ACS for both ACS and data.census.gov here. As Tyson mentioned, Census Academy is our learning hub for data skills. You can learn how to access and use Census Bureau data your way through our How to Data Gym videos and in-depth courses, webinars, and materials. And one last thing, if you're using ACS, make sure to source the Census Bureau surveys as to where you receive the data. It helps people know that the information they're using is powered by the ACS. This concludes today's webinar. We thank you for your time and attention. Have a great day. Back to you, Lisa.
Thanks, Vicki. This concludes today's webinar. Thank you for your participation. You may disconnect at this time.